All right, let's go through this TV guide. September 24th, 1983. Before we get into this, I just want to set a little bit of context for folks who may not remember this era. This was the era of basically antenna TV. There was a few people that had cable, but probably most homes still had an antenna. So there were probably roughly 8-9 channels that you might have, and depending on your reception, you may only have 6 or 7 of those channels. Maybe I'll talk more about that as I get into this. The other thing I want to say about these TV guides that I don't want people to be thrown off. There will be, for each time slot, there'll be multiple channels listed, so it makes it look like there was more channels than there were. But the reason for that is these TV guides were printed up for certain regions, so it would have channel listings for maybe 3 or 4 different regions in the same TV guide. So basically you're getting duplicated. You might have CBS that is channel 3, channel 4, and channel 6 in this region in different markets. So your CBS might be channel 3, and that's all you would look at in this guide. Maybe it'll make more sense once we get into this. So great issue to start with. Three's Company on the cover. One cool thing about these TV guides is sometimes they would do artwork instead of just photos, so that's pretty cool. All right, let's see what we got in here. It wouldn't be a TV guide without some alcohol ads, and we'll probably see some cigarette ads too from the 80s, so why not? Yeah, I hope to do more videos of these, so we'll see how much detail I'll go into on some of these. Looks like this starts off with some review of something. If I see something interesting, I'll talk more about it. Here we go. Got a cigarette ad on the second page. So we got alcohol and we got cigarettes, because it's the 80s. These TV guides were, let me give a little more context on how people use these. So you wouldn't necessarily read through it like we're going to do. You might flip through it just to see what grabs your attention, or if you were home on a particular night, you might pick up the TV guide and see what's coming on that night or that morning or that afternoon. So some people might have read through these, but a lot of these were just references for, you know, when you were home and going to watch some TV. But they do have articles and stuff in here. Phone company. That's what a phone used to look like, for those that don't know. All right, what do we got here? Let's stop TV from spoiling our elections. Call for reform. Imagine that. Now the cigarette ads are now we're rolling. Allstate, Winnie the Pooh, it's a great ad. So I think the way these are organized, it starts with Saturday and Sunday and then goes through the week. So once we get to the actual TV listings, we'll see. Might start off with what's coming on Saturday morning. Watch out for this backstabbing. This woman is devious backstabber. Okay, so this was somebody that was on Dallas, which was a great and very popular kind of nighttime soap opera. I don't remember her. 3 cigarette ads and counting. So here's kind of an entertainment related article about Jack Dempsey. This was the 80s, so Dempsey would have been barely remembered by that point, except by old timers. Looks like they're going to have some 3-hour movie about him, starring Treat Williams. See, this is why we're going through these TV guides. Who knew that Treat Williams was in a made-for-TV movie about Jack Dempsey? Now we know. Nickelodeon cable service. Yeah, I did not have cable at this time, so I would not have known what this is. But those of you that had cable and had Nickelodeon, maybe you recognize this. Check this out. Atari Service Center. Looks like you could call this number or something and maybe get tips on the video games. That's pretty funny. Here we go. We know what kind of ad that is. I have not looked through these. I recently got some of these, so I'm kind of discovering this with you. Let's see if we have anything interesting here. Yeah, I might flip past some of these, and there might be some stuff that catches your eye that I don't comment on. So that's about as 80s as it gets right there. I think that's the lady from Heart to Heart. I can't remember her name off the top of my head. Some of these names will come to me the more we go through some of these. Yeah, so they would usually, I scarcely remember this because I was pretty young, and I mainly looked through these for these kind of ads, but I scarcely remember all these articles in the front. I don't remember there being quite so many here. Jason Robards, Marlo Thomas. These are some names you may or may not remember. I guess this is all about soap operas. Sports. So this is another interesting thing and something to keep in mind as we go through these is there was ESPN might have been around at this time, but it was certainly in its infancy, and like I said, most people did not have cable. So your sports at this time was basically on ABC, NBC, and CBS. So there wasn't much sports on, and when it was on, you'd probably gather around and watch because there just wasn't that much on as far as on TV. And there might be some local markets, but again, depending on where you lived, you might see hardly any sports. Yeah, I don't know where all these are from, so this might be from Indiana, but we'll see a page in here that will, I think, tell us exactly what region this one served, and we'll talk about that. That was a Texas Instruments helps pick out your carpet color. That's pretty bizarre. Yeah, here you go. And again, I haven't done a lot of these yet, so maybe I'll learn more as I go through them, but I don't want to speak out of turn, but this might have been all the sports that was on that entire week. Again, if you had these limited channels, which most of America did. When we get to these particular days, we might talk about some of these. That's funny. Oh, okay, it does say the teams. So this was September. So yeah, I guess baseball would have still been going, and of course football would have been started up. News updates. I'm just skimming through to see if there's anything funny or interesting. Atari rebate, $30 off. How great is that? Is that something about a coupon? Hopefully some of you remember Atari. Get some spark plugs for 89 cents. Pretty good deal. RIP Sears in terms of being a great store where you can get a lot of stuff. Now it's gone the way of all retailers. Pretty useless place if it's still open. Letters. These people feel strongly enough that they're going to write into the TV guide. And some of these might be interesting. They might be talking about a show that they loved or something, or a special or something. I guess these pet tabs will cure everything your pet has wrong with it. Vodka. Well, we got 2 alcohol and 3 cigarette or 4 cigarettes so far. Views and previews. The Emmy Awards. After MASH. So maybe this was after MASH went off the air. I can't remember. I think that was in 1983, but I don't remember precisely. Okay, so they are mentioning some cable channels here, but we'll see when we get to it. We'll see if there's any cable channels actually in the listings. get a comforter for 12 bucks. Good luck getting one for that now. Probably put a 0 after that. Looks to be an Indiana TV guide, but I think every one of these has a page that will tell us what region this is from. Pay TV movie guide. I scarcely remember this because I didn't have cable, but yeah, you could look through this and kind of quickly see what, you know, full commercial-free movies you could see on cable. Let's see if there's anything that catches our eye here. Blade Runner. I mean, that would be awesome. Diner, Chariots of Fire. That was a huge movie at the time. They had a soundtrack that was so popular it got played on like regular radio. It's kind of cool. They tell you a little bit about who's in it and a little bit about the plot. Fast Times at Ridgemont High. And it tells you when they're coming on. Yeah, I won't linger on every one of these pages because I plan to go through a lot, hopefully, a lot of these TV guides across the 70s and 80s. So I might skip past, you know, whatever this is, but we might talk about it in another episode. I saw Star Wars. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised. Yes, they were still showing Star Wars in '83. At that time, movies kind of came and went. Okay, here's the page I was referring to. So I guess it comes right at the beginning of the listings. So like I said, here's the Saturday listings. We're definitely going to check those out to see what Saturday cartoons were on. But yeah, I guess this TV guide that I got is from Central Indiana. So like I mentioned, if you lived in Indianapolis, you would have 6 channels. But if you lived in Terre Haute, you may only have 3 or 4, and you might pick up one of the VHF channels from another region, but for that reason it looks like there's a lot of channels here when there really isn't, because they're basically repeating across multiple markets or whatever. Yeah, and it looks like it might have, yeah, it does have some cable TV listings in here. So for younger people that probably won't watch this video, but maybe you will, that was all you had in terms of cable. You had your pay movie channels, which you probably would only have one of those. CNN, ESPN was around back then, TBS, etc. All right, let's see what comes on Saturday morning. I'll talk about it later when we get to it. Let's see, 5:30. Just says cartoons, doesn't even say which ones on this channel 9. Underdog, so that was an old show by then, but if you got up at 6:30, you could watch Underdog. Jetsons, again, that was probably a rerun, but still great. So this Saturday morning. I'm thinking around 7 is when the actual ones came on, like ABC, NBC, CBS, the newer ones. So Flintstones Funnies at 7 might have been a new cartoon in '83. I don't know. Just looking for anything that catches my eye. Little Rascals, Richie Rich cartoon. That's interesting. I don't remember a Little Rascals cartoon. I just remember the live action. So again, hopefully with these videos, we'll find stuff in here that might make us curious and want us like Google and look up Little Rascals cartoon. And again, I probably will skip over some stuff, so I'm not going to read like every single thing in here. Smurfs was on in '83. They were huge in '82, '83. Mon-Chi-Chi's, hopefully you guys remember that. I definitely do. Pac-Man had his own cartoon, of course. I definitely remember that. Rubik's Cube had his own cartoon, and that's kind of hard to believe, but it's true. And he was like a talking little cube that had some friends. I think he like fell out of the back of a gypsy's wagon or something. There was a pretty wild plot with that. I guess if you got up at 9 a.m. and you were like a grown-up, you could watch microcomputer programming on channel 30. That'd be hilarious to see what that would be. I'm sure it would be like basic or something. Alvin and the Chipmunks, one of my favorites when I was a kid. Not so much in 83, but like 84, 85. It was definitely one of my favorites. Frugal Gourmet. So 30 must have been PBS. Yeah, in one of these markets. So I definitely remember the Frugal Gourmet, the cooking show. So I guess microcomputer programming was on PBS. All right, I know I'm going to skip past some shows that you love, but I don't want to linger too long because I don't want this video to be like super long. So this was kind of an innovation. The old TV guides all just look like this. So this schema for displaying the lineup was much more useful because you could see if something wasn't coming on at 6:30, you might wonder, you'd have to look back at 6 and see, oh, there's an hour show that came on at 6. So this is the schema we're used to on the TV guides on our TVs now. But I think TV Guide, this printed TV Guide, is kind of innovated this, and this is a nice, easy way to see, you know, exactly at 8 o'clock what all is on, and why, you know, this channel doesn't have something new on at 9 because something that came on at 8 is still on. So it looks like this is the Saturday evening lineup. Again, on some of these I might dig through some of the cable channels, but I'm mostly going to focus on the broadcast because, again, it's hard to imagine, but most people only had this to choose from back then. Just see if anything catches my eye. I mean, there's plenty to talk about here. Here's microcomputers again. I guess computers were getting popular. So this would be Saturday night. Some of these shows would probably be repeats. I don't have a firm enough knowledge to know if Love Boat actually came on Saturday night or if this was a repeat from earlier in the week. But yeah, this is interesting. Love Boat, Fantasy Island, and Soul Train. How great of a 3-hour lineup is that? Way better than Love Boat, Fantasy Island, and News. All right, let's not forget about these Saturday morning cartoons. Puppies, Further Adventures, Benji, Zax, and the Alien Prince. See, that's another one worth Googling right there. Was that a cartoon? For those who don't know, Benji was a dog that was very popular. Had a bunch of Benji movies. Thundar the Barbarian, great cartoon. I think it only lasted like 1 year. College football at 11:30. So I guess Indiana, the time zone would be different. So I might get a little confused as to why. I guess college football would be coming on that early in Indiana. So it doesn't start till noon on the East Coast. All right. Here's a chair that lifts up so you won't have to squat down to sit in it. Another computer programming show. I guess TV in some ways was the only way to get information. You know, you couldn't look this stuff up on the internet. So maybe you have to wait till your local PBS showed you how to do computer programming. Here's a 1 p.m. movie, Western, Baker's Hawk, Burl Ives. Tarzan comes on at 1:30. I guess that'd probably be a live action show. I know we skip past some stuff, like here's Fat Albert. Everybody watched that. Yeah, so this is another sort of snapshot of the time. This would probably make sense that Saturday afternoon, probably be a bunch of westerns, western repeats, and westerns from the 50s and 60s on. Austin City Limits. I didn't know that went back that far in PBS. I bet those are some good ones back then. Back when we had real music. Oh, check it out. Siskel and Ebert's got a full-page ad. Deservedly so. They were great ambassadors for movies. That is funny. They got the whole page devoted to them, though. Ad space did mean something back back in the day when people read printed material like this. Hee Haw comes on at 5:30. I'm sorry, 5. Probably a repeat. I don't think it will be coming on that early. Looks like they were still showing Star Trek reruns in 1983. That's pretty wild. All right, this is interesting. I did spot this when I was flipping through a couple of these, and that is they would promo a college or pro football game, and they give you the full roster. How bizarre is that? I guess you wouldn't have to buy a sports section if you were a Notre Dame fan. You could see a full roster right here. And if I look closely, I might recognize a couple of these names, but it's hard to tell. Like Golick, is that the guy that became a Raider? I'm not sure. Dance Fever, I remember that show. Pretty sure that, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the one with the guy from TJ Hooker. But Dance Fever, Solid Gold, those were kind of the only ways to see music on TV back then. So don't underestimate those shows. Those were the ways to see and hear music on television and see like actual music stars and stuff. Muppet Show. Yeah, I have some knowledge of this era, but I feel like the Muppet Show would have been a rerun in 1983. I don't think they were still making new ones in 83. Alright, so Saturday night, we kind of already saw this on that main page, but we got Different Strokes coming on. Walt Disney, maybe some cartoons. Wabash Valley Times. We will see some ads and stuff that'll make you want to go look some stuff up, so. Get a giant memo calendar with your photo on it for $2.99. If you guys want, I can send you this coupon and you can mail in for one of these. Just leave a comment below. Buy some insurance out of the TV guide. How depressing would that be? Life After MASH. Wow, so see, this is why we're looking through these things. I never knew that this guy, I can't remember his name. He was great though. He's a great character actor. He was great on MASH. Looks like he had a whole new show after MASH. So that's something worth looking up when we're totally bored. Fantasy Island was a great show, in my opinion. Great show for the whole family. Sort of a sci-fi edge to it. Like weird stuff happened on that island. Yeah, like I said, I'm not going to linger on every single thing. Like, here's a movie called Rhino from 1964. Nutrisystem ad. Saturday Night Live. Yeah, I guess if you were in Indiana, that was coming on at 10:30 at night, which is kind of nice because you wouldn't have to stay up so late to watch it. This is the era where a few people probably had VCRs. VCRs were really expensive when they came out. So I guess if you couldn't stay up, you might be able to record one of these on your VCR. But most people probably still didn't have a VCR until like the mid-80s. Alright, well, it looks like there is stuff on all night. Because I know a lot of these channels would go off the air at like 2 a.m. or whatever. But it looks like if you were really hardcore, there was maybe a couple channels still on. Maybe just channel 40, which looks like all religious stuff. Sunday morning, probably a bunch of weird reruns, unlike Saturday morning, where we had all the good cartoons that we will probably talk about in more detail in other episodes. Sunday morning was probably kind of a wasteland of weird reruns and stuff, although don't get me wrong, some of those reruns are great. Yeah, it looks like a lot of religious programming, so that's interesting. I guess I probably never got up on Sunday morning at 7:30 and watched TV. Gilligan's Planet was a cartoon I remember, because it was, I remember ads from comic books with Gilligan's Planet. I think they had the same voice actors, so some of those cartoons, like the Star Trek cartoon, had the original guys doing the voices, so they're pretty authentic. All right, so this would be Sunday. This would be NFL season. Looks like another sports calendar. I don't know who these guys are. They look like they're into sports, though. Actually, I kind of recognize, but not really. Bengals at Tampa Bay Bucks. Wow. I guess Indiana, Cincinnati, maybe that would be a one you'd want to watch. And again, I'm sure there's stuff on here that I'm not calling out that you might like, but we hopefully will be going through a lot of these TV guides. Here's a show right now, the Emmy Awards and who's nominated. This would probably be fun to look at, just to see who was popular. Let's just take a quick look at the actress in a drama and maybe the actor and see if we recognize any of them. Debbie Allen. I guess that would be Fame. Yeah, it says the name here. Tyne Daly. Yeah, this is great. From Cagney and Lacey. Linda Evans from Dynasty. Veronica Hamill from Hill Street Blues. I mean, that's a murderer's row of 80s actresses, man. William Daniels from St. Elsewhere. I never watched St. Elsewhere. Some boring stuff. John Forsythe from Dynasty. Tom Selleck. Daniel J. Cervantes from Hill Street Blues. Yeah, here we go. I'm sure some of these others are good too, like the actors in a comedy. Let's take a quick look. Nell Carter from Give Me a Break. Mariette Hartley. Good Night Beantown. Who's seen that show? Shelley Long from Cheers. Rita Moreno from 9 to 5. See, these are the factoids that you guys are learning thanks to my video right now. Their 9 to 5 was a big hit movie, and they made a TV show, maybe lasted a year or so, about basically a TV version of it. And I guess Rita Moreno was in it. All right, here's the Sunday night lineup. Sunday afternoon, you can watch wrestling. Just, that's all they say, wrestling. Watch some old movies. Sunday night, looks like the Rams are still on. 60 Minutes, of course. Ripley's Believe It or Not was a great show. Jack Palance was the narrator. Had a lot of weird, fun facts on there. Kind of good for the whole family. Sometimes some weird stuff. College football on Sunday night. I'm surprised about that. Because I know they really expanded college football in like the 90s, but I didn't realize in the 80s they were doing things like Sunday night games. There's Goodnight Beantown. Trapper John, who remembers that? Here we go. This is partly why I wanted to look through some of these. This was the kind of ephemera that you would get if you were buying a TV guide. Yeah, here's the Ripley's Believe It or Not. Lizard Eating Contest. Ninja. The Oldest Bush, an ancient and hardy plant, might hold the key to an eternal life. How could you not watch that show and find out about the Lizard Eating Contest? I'm kind of being tongue-in-cheek on some of these comments. Hopefully you all know. Here we go. Hosted by Eddie Murphy and Joe Rivers. How good is that? I bet you could go on YouTube and find this whole broadcast. I watched an old MTV Movie Awards from like the 80s, and it was really cool on YouTube. Hardcastle and McCormick. We love that show in my house. Great dynamic between these two. Brian Keith and Daniel Hugh Kelly. Kind of an action Magnum PI kind of show. I guess it came on at 7 on Sunday nights. Way better than watching 60 Minutes. $2 off your Prestone. Only good through December 10th, so you better act now. Check it out. Yeah, see, they would do these little, original artwork ads in this. So here's one for Thunderball, which would have been a very old movie at that point, but James Bond coming on at 8. Heavy duty staple gun. What? Fonzie was on Oh Madeline? See, that's another one for you all to Google and tell me about it in the comments. I vaguely remember this show, Loving. Everybody remembers Family Feud. Richard Dawson, he was kind of the original best host, although it's always been an entertaining show. Life After MASH, and he was on it too. See, I really want to look that up, but I'll probably forget after I record this video. Alright, so this will be Sunday night. If you're staying up till 1 a.m. on Sunday night, you can watch news or some guy named Lester Sumrall, who will probably put you to sleep. Monday morning. Wow, so Phil Donahue straight out of the bat. So for the weekday stuff, I'll probably go through it more quickly because, as we know, during the week, probably every day Phil Donahue comes on, so we probably won't linger on this much, this section as much as we did Saturday and Sunday. All right, this video is running a little long, so we're gonna go through some of these a little more quickly. Every morning you would watch Sesame Street for sure. Let's maybe see what else might have been on. Popeye cartoon, probably the old ones from the 60s or 40s and 50s or whenever those were from. All My Children, Young and the Restless. Man, how could you choose? Judge Wapner. Man. Ryan's Hope. These guys got a full page ad. They're going to bring you all the truthful news. Here we go. Check that out. Wheel of Fortune. I guess it's supposed to be a wheel or something. It's funny how I just repeated that. Love Boat. That's a funny drawing. Weekdays at 4, so that must have been reruns. Oh, Entertainment Tonight. Interesting. Woody Woodpecker. Yeah, you would get home from school and you'd watch maybe Casper and Friends or Woody Woodpecker. You wouldn't be watching Breakaway or whatever that other garbage is. Monday night. Let's take a quick look. Let's see what catches our eye on Monday night. So again, I hate to keep harping on it, but I guess since this is Indiana, this would essentially be like prime time, 7 to 9:30 or 7 to 10. After MASH, a full hour show. MASH was only a half hour. That's interesting. Nothing else grabs my eye except here's that microcomputer programming again. Packers Giants were on Monday night. Don't see much else there. Wow, that was on back then. Bits in China. Check out this ad. Boone series premiere. Yeah, this would have been right around the time the new shows would have been coming on. Never heard of this one. That's incredible. This was similar to that Ripley's Believe It or Not show. It was pretty entertaining too. Veronica Hamill's got her own movie, it looks like. Never heard of that. Called Sessions. Wow, there she is. Guess you'll tune in now, won't you? There's that After MASH things. Colonel Potter, Father Mulcahy, and Klinger. Yeah, this is interesting. And that's a great drawing right there. Full page art, original art. Wow. Yeah, maybe the weeknight lineup, they feature more ads. I don't remember all this, so this is fun to discover with you here. Emerald Point. I think I saw this on YouTube somewhere, and it had a lot of big names that would go on to become, like, I can't remember all their names off the top of my head, but she became a pretty big star. I think that's MacGyver right there. So this is why that's why we go through these TV guides. Mrs. Reagan recalls Princess Grace. Great performances. Maybe that's why I never watched Great Performances. That's what they have on there. Happy Jack. Not sure what that is. Maybe some pesticide or something. Heart to Heart was a fun show. Maybe it was in rerun by that point. If it was coming on Monday night, it basically would be 11:30 East Coast time. All right, I'm gonna have to go through this a little quicker because I think this video is gonna be like an hour long at this rate. 8 is Enough. It was a fun show. I never watched it, but I like the spirit of it. Kind of similar to the Brady Bunch. Guess I won't be able to make all my wry comments about all these ads because I want to go through this a little more quickly. Let's see if anything on Tuesday night catches our eye. Brief Encounter. We might see an ad for what that is. The A-Team was on by that point. That was a huge show for young guys like me. Remington Steele. Hopefully some of you all remember that. That was a fun show. Great dynamic between the actor and the actress. Some of these names will come to me. I'm an old guy. Oh, this was my show, man. I never saw this when it came out, but I loved Christy McNichol. Still love Christy McNichol. Will always love Christy McNichol. And this show ran for maybe 4 seasons, and she was pretty much the star. I mean, it had a whole family. It had Meredith Baxter Birney before Family Ties. But yeah, I got it for Christy McNichol. And they brought this little girl on, and she's fine. She's a good actress. But they brought her on as kind of a jump the shark in like the last season or something, as they do. Yeah, here's that lineup we talked about. A-Team, Remington Steele. Every young guy was watching those shows. Watch him shoot 1,000,000 bullets and never hit anybody. I vaguely remember this. This is pretty insane. You'll never see Fonzie like this. Don't even know what that is. Maybe it's still Happy Days in '83? The Mississippi. This sounds super cheesy, but maybe fun. Yeah, I'll definitely go into more detail on some of these on other episodes. Three's Company. I don't remember the mom from Growing Pains being on Three's Company. Almost have to want to look that up now. That's definitely Joanna Kearns, I think was her name. On, I guess, doing a guest spot. Madeline Kahn, great actress, a lot of charisma. Yeah, some of these shows look fun. I just won't be able to linger on them too long. Kicking off a trio of music variety specials, live and in person. Yeah, there's Heart to Heart. It's a fun show. Those of you that are into Hollywood stars might know Robert Wagner as the husband of, what was her name? See, I'm not even recalling the names now. But there was some suspicion around her passing. Look at this, Superstar Live. I have no idea what this is, but it's got a ton of stars on it. And again, some of you might say, well, these are some B-level stars. Not really, look at this. Got Culture Club, this was definitely in their prime, Men at Work. And then they're gonna bring in Liberace, Rod Stewart. Wow, this is Menudo, they were huge. Scoff now, but they were huge at that time. This is interesting. 9 p.m. It's night, Wednesday, and Thursday. Yeah, that makes sense with all those different stars. Road Warrior on HBO. I think Mad Max is the better, if I recall. Road Warrior's good, but Mad Max is the one where they just went bananas with the car chases and stuff. Hills has the A-Team vehicles. Must be like a local department store in Indiana. All right, we're into Wednesday. Might just focus more on this primetime stuff. These ads for like the Love Boat and stuff are funny. They put them on a lot of pages. Check this out. So we got Taxi, new show. Taxi was on before. Maybe they mean new episode. I'm sure Taxi was on before 1983. 8 is Enough, People's Court. Taxi debuts in The Leader. Must be like reruns in the middle of the day and they're just saying, oh, this is the first time they're showing them or something. Wednesday night, let's see what's coming on here. A lot of movies, it looks like. Fall Guy. So that was out in 83. Gotta watch that. Colt Seavers. Dynasty was coming on Wednesday night. Facts of Life and Family Ties. How good is that? Another thing about this era, when you only have 3 channels essentially, because the other channels would show reruns and syndicated stuff, so you basically had the big 3. The competition for what's going to be on the air is a lot higher. You're just going to get better quality shows than when you have 300 channels. There's just no way to produce that much quality content. So here's that Treat Williams movie we were talking about. I think it's like a multi-night event, I think, from what the ad said. Sam Waterston, Sally Kellerman. I recognize Sally Kellerman's name. Look at that. Facts of Life, great ad. Family Ties, great ad. I wonder when Family Ties premiered, because this looks like one of the very early seasons. Something called Indiana Prime Time. Sure, that was really great. Dynasty, funny show. Another one of those nighttime soap operas, very popular. Hotel, Psycho Killer. Kind of looks like, I don't know, it's a drawing, so it's probably not who I think it is anyway. Sure, everybody tune in for Bob Coob. Who wouldn't tune in for that guy? Jill St. John. Cowboy Bob's Corral, 7:30 in the morning. Is this? Yeah. Thursday night. Magnum PI, Simon and Simon, Knots Landing. The guys were definitely watching Magnum and Simon. The gals were definitely watching Knots Landing. Got something for the whole family. There's that 9 to 5 syndicated show I was talking about, or TV show that was based on the movie. College volleyball back in the 80s. That's pretty wild. I mean, we're used to seeing stuff like that now, but I never saw volleyball on TV in the 80s unless it was like the Olympics. I know some of you are probably spotting shows you like WKRP. We'll definitely talk about those in other episodes, hopefully. Mama's Family was on in 83. I guess that kind of makes sense. Vicki Lawrence, always liked her. Andy Gibb, R.I.P. He died young, but he was really a huge superstar at the time. He wasn't one of the Bee Gees. He was their brother, and he had his own solo stuff going on. So it looks like he drops in on an episode of Give Me a Break. So again, you could probably find that out on the internet. Andy Gibb, Give Me a Break. Looks like Lou Ferrigno's on the Fall Guy here. Oh, Trauma Center. Yeah, I remember that show. I love that show. I only think it lasted like a season or so. I loved it mainly because the Hulk was on it. I mean, he had white skin instead of green skin, but I still loved it. It's like Lee Majors is just guest starring on it. Yeah, look at this. Magnum and Simon. How great is that? So this is what you would do. You know, you wouldn't flip through the whole thing. You might flip through, see this, and say, oh yeah, I got to see this on Thursday night or whenever it comes on. Mickey, a stripper. Is she taking it off or putting on the guys? Be there. Sure some guys were there for that. That looks like, what's her name? Yeah, there's the 9 to 5, kind of TV version of it. Casting TV back then, they really found good good actors and actresses with charisma. So, you know, even these actors that you may not recognize. Cheers. Looks like Diane was still on the show at that time. We'll get more into some of these in other episodes. There's Knots Landing I mentioned. Manglores, I remember those. Like Monsters style toys. Late Night with David Letterman. Yes, if you're on the East Coast, you had to stay up till 12:30. You couldn't do that on a school night. So some of the best years of Letterman were on so late that a young person wouldn't be able to stay up. You'd probably have to be in your 20s or something. All right, so this is the last night, and we'll probably have some back matter ads that'll be funny to look at. But let's see what's on Friday night. Dukes of Hazzard. How good is that? Benson was a good show. Webster was a good show. Matt Houston was a good show. Love that show. That guy, I can't remember his name. He had tons of charisma. And Dallas, we talked about that. And then if you had like Formaldehyde for Blood, you could watch Business Report or Washington Week. Oh, I remember this show. For some reason, orangutans were really big in like the late 70s, early 80s. Clint Eastwood had those orangutan movies. And this might even have been the same ape that played one of these. But yeah, I remember it was a whole show about these orangutans walking around like, dressed like humans and stuff. Benson was a good show. Webster's going to play football. Tune in to find out why. That's a funny ad. Manimal, I remember that show. I don't remember anything about it, so it must have been like all hype. It must not have been that great, but I definitely remember people always referring to that show. Dallas and Falcon Crest, Friday night. Matt Houston. It's just a detective show. Don't get misled by this silhouette here. All right. Till Death Do Us Part. Yeah, if we had time, we probably will in some episodes, look through some of the actors that are some of these. This is funny. It shows you all the guest stars on Matt Houston. Joe Penny. He was from Simon, I think. That's probably about it. He always had a crossword puzzle. It was entertainment related, so you could probably, if you were watching TV at this time and movies, you could probably get some of these. Yeah, those were fun crossword puzzles for those of us that know a little bit of TV trivia. Here's an article about Three's Coming. Here's another cigarette ad. If you're watching this, you probably already had to go out for a smoke because of all these cigarette references. Next week. Yeah, some people would subscribe to the TV guide. A lot of times we would just grab it at the checkout counter in the store. Here's another cigarette ad. Here's the newest technology of the time. You got your Walkman. You got your giant 17-inch TV. You got your fridge that doesn't show ads to you like they do now. Rinko from Hill Street Blues. Great charismatic actor. Closing it out with, you know what we're closing it out with. All right, thanks, folks.